Welcome to Guide to IELTS. This is a reading passage 2, that is section 2, taken from test 1 of Cambridge IELTS Book 16. The first thing we do is read the heading and the subheading if there is one. The heading says the step pyramid of Djoser. There is no subheading. Next, I look at the question types. I do not read the questions at this stage. The first is list of headings. The second is fill in the blanks or complete the information. And the third is a single multiple choice question in which I have to select two answers. The answers to complete the information are usually in order, and so are the answers to multiple choice questions. Since we only have one multiple choice question, it doesn't matter in this case. But in case of complete the information, this information will help me find the answers. Another thing I take note of at this stage is if there is any heading given to the complete the information question type. There is a heading in this case, but it just says the step pyramid of Djoser. In this case, it's just a general heading, actually the same as the heading of the passage. Sometimes this heading is very focused. For example, the heading could be the exterior of the pyramid. So in that case, I keep that in mind as I'm going through the passage, because wherever I may find anything about the exterior, all these answers should be around that area. List of headings is one of the most dreaded question types. But if you do the next step properly, that is get the gist of what the passage is about, and if you are able to do that quickly, list of headings becomes much easier. The next step is trying to get the gist of what the passage is about. My preferred way of doing this is to read the beginning and ending of each paragraph. One thing to keep in mind before we start is that the first paragraph usually has some introduction to the passage and the last paragraph a conclusion. So more often than not, the first and the last paragraph have content which is slightly different from the rest of the passage. Let's start now. The pyramids are the most famous monuments of ancient Egypt and still hold enormous interest. I'm going to stop here. An introduction to what pyramids are. Ending of this paragraph. However, there is no question that as far as Egypt is concerned, it began with one monument to one king designed by a brilliant architect, the step pyramid of Djoser. So it's clear that paragraph A starts with what pyramids are, and the last sentence is most probably talking about the first pyramid in Egypt, which is what our passage is about. Paragraph B now. Djoser was the first king of Egypt. The details we try to skip. Like in this case, this we didn't read. I'm going to skip the rest of the sentence. This is clearly about the king. The ending of paragraph B. Djoser is thought to have reigned for 19 years, but some historians and scholars attribute a much longer time. Paragraph B seems to be all about Djoser and how long he ruled and maybe what he did during that time. Paragraph C now. The step pyramid has been thoroughly examined and investigated over the last century. So paragraph A was about pyramids in general. Paragraph B is about Djoser, the king who got this pyramid built. And paragraph C is now talking about the pyramid. Ending of this paragraph. The weight of the enormous mass was a challenge for the builders who placed the stones at an inward incline. I'm assuming this paragraph is about how the pyramid was constructed and the challenges faced during that. Paragraph D now. When finally completed, the step pyramid rose 62 meters high. Ending of paragraph D. Djoser was so proud of his accomplishment that he broke the tradition of having only his own name on the monuments and had Imhotep's name carved on it as well. What do we already know from having read just parts of the beginning and ending of the first 4 paragraphs? The first paragraph is about pyramids in general. The second one talks about the King Djoser, who got the pyramid built. The third one is about the actual building or the construction of the pyramid. And the fourth one is about the details of pyramid, how big it is, etc. And towards the end, we have name of this person whose name was also carved on the pyramid. He could have been the person behind the building of it or the designing of it. Paragraph E now. The burial chamber of the tomb where the king's body was laid to rest was dug beneath the base of the pyramid. Ending. There are other historians, however, who claim the vessels were dumped into the shafts as yet another attempt to prevent grave robbers from getting to the king's burial chamber. These are details about what is inside or what was put inside the chamber and why. What do historians think about it? Paragraph F. Unfortunately, all of the precautions and intricate design of the underground network did not prevent ancient robbers. Ending. There was enough left throughout the pyramid and its complex to astonish and amaze archaeologists. So, at some point in history, the pyramid was robbed, but some stuff was still left. The final paragraph. Egyptologist, some person. We usually avoid reading names or proper nouns of any kind until and unless they are in the question. So this person writes, few monuments hold a place in human history as significant as that of Step Pyramid, and the Step Pyramid was a revolutionary advance in architecture. As we said in the beginning, kind of a conclusion to the whole passage. One thing I just noticed is that it says the Step Pyramid in Saqqara here. Now, if you miss out on this detail, that the Step Pyramid of Djoser is actually at Saqqara, you could think that these are two different things. We start with the questions now. One set of questions that we have is list of headings. I'm often asked whether we should do the other question types first or go straight for the list of headings first. My recommendation is, if you're short of time, if you feel you won't have enough time to do all the questions properly, do the other question types first. They are simpler and they don't require going through every single paragraph. But if I have time, I always prefer to do list of headings first. Having done list of headings, it's very easy to find answers to the other questions. So in this case, we will start list of headings. When we are doing list of headings, obviously we need to really understand what every paragraph is saying. There is no way to just glance at the words in a paragraph and understand what heading we could give it. However, what we can do is start reading every sentence in a paragraph. At whatever point in the sentence we understand what it is really talking about, we skip to the next sentence. We avoid reading details. So we start with paragraph A now. The pyramids are the most famous monuments of ancient Egypt and still hold enormous interest for people in the present day. These grand, impressive tributes to the memory of the Egyptian kings have been linked with the country, even though other cultures, Chinese and Mayan, also built pyramids. The evolution of the pyramid form has been written and argued about for centuries. However, there is no question in Egypt it began with this pyramid. Now, from having read through this paragraph and with the prior knowledge we now have of what the whole passage is about, we can immediately cross out a few headings for this particular paragraph. List of headings is just as much about eliminating the wrong heading as it is about finding the right one. Because as we keep eliminating headings, crossing out headings for a paragraph, it becomes easier for us. So within the pyramid is not what this is about at all. Difficult task for those involved, no. King, no. A single certainty among other less definite facts. Well, there is no question that. So this is a certainty. Is it about less definite facts as well? Well, it says the evolution of pyramid form has been written and argued about for centuries. So there is a lot of argument about where pyramids came from and stuff like that. Could this be the one? It could be, but I would need to eliminate all others to be sure about this. At this stage, if I'm really running short of time, I could just write 4 here followed by a question mark and leave it at that. This question mark tells me that I'm a little unsure. I'll come back to this if I have time, and I'll come back to this especially if I feel that 4th could be the heading of something else. One thing I will not do if I'm unsure is that I won't cross out this heading. I'll only cross out headings if I'm 100% sure that it is used correctly. Right now, I will, however, go through the rest of the headings as well. An overview of external buildings, no. A pyramid design that others copied. Is there anything about a design being copied by someone else? I don't think so. So for now, I'll cross it out. It does talk about a lot of pyramids, but nothing about one copying the other. An idea for changing the design of burial structures? No. An incredible experience despite the few remains? No. The answers to some unexpected questions. If I look for the keyword question here and if I find question here, I could say that this is what it is, but no. There is no unexpected question being asked here. And this phrase, there is no question that, actually means that there is no confusion about something. It is confirmed or it is a certainty. So actually in this case, I can be sure that fourth is the answer, and I'll cross out this one from my list because I'm sure. I have marked these two phrases because of which I was sure that fourth is the heading for paragraph A. I'll start with the next one now. Paragraph B. Joseph was the first king of the third dynasty of Egypt, first to build in stone. Prior to his reign, tombs were rectangular. Now what I'm doing here is reading phrases. This takes a bit of practice, but once you get used to doing it, you can get information of what is in a sentence very quickly. So prior to his reign, tombs were rectangular, made of dried brick. Underground passages, deceased persons were buried. For reasons which remain unclear, his main official, whose name was... Now the names, especially if they are difficult names, I don't even try to pronounce. But I do remember that when I was reading the beginning and ending, this name was mentioned in the ending of one of the paragraphs. So it's an important name. Anyway, the main official conceived of building a taller, more impressive tomb, stacking stone slabs on top of one another, progressively making them smaller, to form a shape now known as step pyramid. So step pyramids are where the bottom is the biggest and the top is the smallest. Djoser is thought to have reigned for 19 years. Some historians attribute a much longer time owing to the number and size of monuments he built. There is this one word here which I do want to mention. Conceive has more than one meaning, but here it means to come up with a plan or to get an idea. So he came up with the design of this tomb. When I had read the beginning and ending of this paragraph, I had assumed that it was only about Djoser as the king because that is what the beginning and ending is mainly talking about. But in between, there is this information about the planning of this pyramid. Knowing this, let's start with our headings. We are not talking about within the pyramid right now. We are talking about the basic building plan, design of it. Difficult task for those involved, not really. They are talking about how it was planned, but nothing about whether it was difficult or not. A king who saved his people. Is there anything about that? Not at all. Overview of external buildings and area. It does talk about the basic design, but I don't think this is the answer. I'll still not cross this out. A pyramid design that others copied. It does mention a new design, but it doesn't mention anywhere that somebody else copied it. So no. The idea of changing the design of burial structures. This one does say that the underground passages where the deceased person was buried, that would be the burial structures, they were rectangular before Djoser's time. But this person, he decided to change the design of it. This seems to be the correct answer. I'll still read the other two. An incredible experience despite the few remains? No. The answer to some unexpected questions? No. Now I'm sure the answer is 7, although it was pretty difficult to figure out. Had we not understood the meaning, we would not have been able to find it. If I'd been unsure, what I would have done is, I would have maybe written 5/7 in my question paper, not in my answer sheet. I can't write 2 answers in my answer sheet. And I would have come back to this after I had done the rest of the headings. But since I'm sure, I'll just cross this out and start with the next one. Paragraph C now. The step pyramid has been thoroughly examined and investigated over the last century. Now known, the building process went through many different stages. Some historian comments, don't read the names, they confuse you. So some historian comments, much experimentation was involved, which is especially clear in the construction of the pyramid in the center of the complex. It had several plans before it became the first step pyramid in history, piling 6 levels on top of one another. The enormous mass was a challenge for the builders who placed the stones at an incline in order to prevent the monument from breaking up. This point about it being a challenge makes me think that this could be the answer. A difficult task for those involved, a challenge for the builders. I will still quickly go through the rest of the headings. We are still not talking about what is inside. It's not about the king. Is it about the overview of external buildings? No. A pyramid design that others copied. Again, I'll quickly glance at it. It does say that was a new kind of a design, but it doesn't mention anywhere that others copied it. So no. An incredible experience despite the few remains? No. Answer to unexpected questions? No. The answer is clearly 2. This is where I got the answer from, and I'll cross it out. We start with paragraph D now. When finally completed, the pyramid rose 62 meters high, tallest structure. The complex in which it was built was the size of a city, included temples, courtyards, shrines, a region of 16 hectares, a wall this much high, false doors in the wall. Then about the entrance. The false doors and the trench were incorporated into the complex to discourage unwanted visitors. If someone wanted to enter, he or she would have needed to know in advance how to find the location. Joseph was so proud of his accomplishment that he broke the tradition and had this person's name carved as well. Let's look at the answer. The areas and artifacts within the pyramid. We are talking about the outside of the pyramid. The details of inside have still not been given. A king who saved his people? No. Even this is no. An overview of the external buildings and areas. This seems to be correct because it's all about the whole region, the wall, etc. The pyramid design that others copied, there's nothing about anyone else copying it. An incredible experience despite few remains, answers to unexpected questions. All of these don't seem to be correct. So clearly the correct answer is the fifth one, and I'll cross this one out. Paragraph E now. The burial chamber of the tomb. We avoid reading information between commas, between dashes. The burial chamber of the tomb was dug beneath the base of the pyramid. Long tunnels. One of the most mysterious discoveries found inside the pyramid. This inside is important because we have a heading option which says within the pyramid. Large stone vessels, various forms and shapes, storerooms, underground passages, inscribed with the names of rulers. So these are all details of what was inside the pyramid. We'll still glance at the rest of the paragraph. There is no agreement among scholars and archaeologists why the vessels were placed. None of the options in our headings are about vessels or details like that. This archaeologist who excavated most of the pyramid and complex believes they were stored and then given proper burial by Joseph. Other historians claim the vessels were dumped into the shafts. Although there are viewpoints of different scholars and archaeologists in the second half of this paragraph, there is no mention of any unexpected questions being talked about. So the answer to this one would be first, which talks about what is inside the pyramid. And I'll cross this one out. Let's start with paragraph F now. Unfortunately, all the precautions and intricate design of the underground network did not prevent ancient robbers. Joseph's grave goods and even his body was stolen at some point. All archaeologists found were a small number of valuables. There were enough left throughout and its complex to astonish and amaze the archaeologists. So certainly not king who saved the people, not a design that was copied, but there were few remains. Most of the things were stolen, but whatever remained was incredible. It was astonishing and amazing. So the answer would be 8th, and I'll cross this one out. Paragraph G now. This person, avoid reading the details that can distract you from what is the main thing being talked about. So this person writes, few monuments hold a place in human history as significant as this one. It can be said without exaggeration that it constitutes a milestone in evolution. The step pyramid was a revolutionary advance in architecture and became the archetype which all the other pyramid builders would follow. As you practice more and more reading passages, you'd realize that it is possible to find most of the answers without knowing a lot of big words. For example, in paragraph E, even if you don't know the meaning of this word predecessors, you would have been able to find the answer. And in this sentence itself, if you cross out to honor his predecessors, the sentence still makes some sense and you're able to understand what it is saying. In case of paragraph G, however, this word archetype is important to be able to understand the answer. Archetype means original of something, something that others follow. A synonym of archetype is prototype. We use the word prototype when we are referring to a sample device or the first device that is made when there is some new technological invention. Because of this word archetype, the answer would be 6th, because archetype means it was the original which was copied by others. And with this, we're done with the list of headings. Let's start with the second set of questions now. Whenever I have this question type, that is complete the information, the first thing I do is I look at the heading if there is one. Sometimes it helps me figure out where the answer could be. In this case, the heading is actually the same as the heading of the passage, so it doesn't help me much. Another thing I keep in mind is the instructions. The answers can be one word only. One thing I know about this question type is that the answers are usually in sequence. That is, wherever I'd find this first answer 21st, 22nd will be after that, and so on. Next, what I would do is look for any proper nouns within the given questions. Proper nouns can be recognized by capitalized letters. So step pyramid is a proper noun. Egyptian is a proper noun. Proper nouns are important because we usually find them as it is in the passage. We don't have to worry about there being synonyms of those. In this one, however, step pyramid doesn't help, again because the whole passage is about it. So I'll start reading through the questions. The complex that includes the step pyramid and its surroundings is considered to be as big as an Egyptian something of the past. Since I have already done list of headings and I have gone through most of the passage, I know that paragraph D onwards, the step pyramid is described. The keywords I would have here is the surroundings of the pyramid, about size. So it could be big, it could be just a mention of the size, it could be a word like enormous or maybe huge, and a comparison of something in Egypt. I start scanning from paragraph D. So when finally completed, this is the height, tallest structure. I'm looking for a comparison. The complex in which, so the word complex is here and we have the word complex here as well, was the size of a city in ancient Egypt. So the complex that includes the step pyramid and its surrounding is considered to be as big as, it could be Egyptian city. Ancient means of the past, and it is the size of the city, it is as big as an Egyptian city. The area outside the pyramid, now I'm looking for outside, included accommodation that was occupied by someone. So we are looking for accommodation. We have living quarters here. And who were they occupied by? They were occupied by priests. This is where the answer is coming from. Along with many other buildings and features. The other buildings and features are temples, courtyards, etc. A wall ran around the outside of the complex. So we're looking for a wall outside of the complex. False entrances. I already remember reading about false doors here. So that would be false entrances. But there is no question in this one. So I'll just glance at this sentence, but I'll move on to the next. In addition, along something encircled the wall. There is a typo here. This encircled should be small e. So along something encircled the wall. So something that is all around a wall. So we have false doors here. The wall had false doors cut into it. The entire wall was then ringed by, so ringed would be encircled, by a trench 750 meters long. And this is a long trench we are talking about. So the answer would be trench. So we do have the word long here, but 750 meters long means it was a long trench. As a result, any visitors who had not been invited were prevented from entering unless they knew the something of the real entrance. This is on the next page. Unless they knew the location of the real entrance. The real entrance would be the true opening of the wall. So this would be location. A quick mention of the conjunction unless here. A quick mention of the conjunction unless here. Unless means except if, kind of opposite of if. So if I'm trying to tell you, if you do not study hard, you will not get good marks, I can instead say, unless you study hard, you will not get good marks. So here, when it is saying, unless they knew the location of the entrance, what it means is that except if they knew the location of the entrance. Notice that we found all the answers, 21st to 24th, of this question type in only one paragraph. If we know the basic structure of the passage, that is what information is there in which paragraph, it becomes very easy to locate where the answers would be. And very often the answers of certain question types are within one or two paragraphs. The last question now, a single question where we have to choose two correct answers. Which two of the following points does the writer make about King Djoser? So King Djoser is mentioned first in this paragraph, although his name is mentioned later as well. So I'll start reading the options. Initially, he had to be persuaded to build in stone rather than clay. So did he want to build in clay and somebody had to convince him to change his mind. I can see clay here, I can see stone here. So I'll just quickly scan through this part. Tombs were rectangular, made of clay. For reasons which remain unclear, this person conceived of building a taller building. There doesn't seem to be any mention of why Djoser agreed to make it with stone, just that he was the first one to do so. For now, I don't think this is the answer. There is disagreement concerning the length of his reign. This I know to be true, but I'll still read it. It is right here. He is thought to have reigned for 19 years. Thought to have means that it is believed to be so, but there is no concrete proof of it. So it says here that Djoser is thought to have reigned for 19 years. It is believed that he ruled for 19 years, but some historians and scholars attribute a much longer time for his rule owing to the number and size of the monuments he built. So is there a disagreement? Yes, there is. He failed to appreciate this person's part in the design. I know this one to be incorrect from having read the beginning and ending of each paragraph. This is the end of paragraph D. It says that Djoser was so proud of his accomplishment that he broke the tradition of having only his own name on the monument and had this person's name carved on it as well. So Djoser didn't fail to appreciate, he actually did appreciate this person's part. In case you are unsure about where the answer could be, because this is name of a person, just scan through the passage looking for this name. It has to be mentioned wherever this information would be there. So this person's name is mentioned once here, and before that it is mentioned here. So here it just says that he came up with the idea, and later it is mentioned that King Djoser appreciated the design so much that this person's name was also carved on the monument. This is clearly not the answer. A few of his possessions were still in his tomb when archaeologists found it. Were the possessions there or not? This paragraph I know is about the fact that most of the stuff inside was robbed. But were a few possessions there? I'll still go through this. It mentions here all archaeologists found were a small number of his valuables overlooked by the thieves. There were a few possessions that were found. I think this is the correct answer. I'll still read the next one. He criticized the design and construction of other pyramids in Egypt. I'm pretty sure this is not the answer. If you want to be sure, you can read paragraph B, in which there is mention about the tombs before and later. But I'm sure the two correct answers are B and D. In such questions where you have to choose 2 or 3 correct answers, it doesn't matter what sequence you write it in. So for 25th and 26th, you can write the answers as B and D, or you can even write them as D or B. Both would be marked correct. And with this, we are done with all the questions of this passage. Here is a list of some words and their meanings which helped us find the answers. Do like, share and give feedback through comments. Subscribe to our channel. Help us reach a wider audience. All the very best.